Hey everyone, Chad Hasty here, host of the Chad Hasty Show, which airs weekday mornings 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 a.m. KFYO in Lubbock, Texas. You can follow me on Twitter, Chad Hasty Radio. Well, it looks as though the United States is preparing for regime change in Syria. According to Fox News, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said on Thursday that, quote, steps are underway on an international coalition or building an international coalition to pressure Syria's Bashar Assad from power. As President Trump was being briefed on military options for Syria, although the specific steps the U.S. will take and its allies will take remain unclear. This after Syria dropped chemical weapons on its own people, that according to Fox News. America's top diplomat addressed Syria and the Syrian crisis a day after Trump declared in the Rose Garden that the chemical strike would not be tolerated. Rex Tillerson pointedly said Russia could, quote, should, quote, consider carefully its support for the Assad regime while calling for an international effort to defeat ISIS in Syria, stabilize the country, and ultimately work with partners through a political process that leads to Assad leaving power. Now, exactly what that looks like, no one really knows. Will Assad really leave with just political pressure? I tend to doubt it because he already would have done so. There's been a ton of political pressure from all over the world for Bashar al-Assad to leave his to leave Syria, to leave his position, but he hasn't done it yet. This is going to be, in my opinion, if you're going to do regime change, you're going to have to go in with troops, you're going to have to go in with bombs, and the non-interventionist Donald Trump is going to have to become an interventionist. This is something that he campaigned saying that he didn't want to do. He wanted to put America first. In fact, back in 2013, he tweeted at President Obama and said, don't get involved in Syria. There's nothing in it for the United States, nothing in it at all for the United States. Now, I think what's smart about this so far, and again, we don't know the plans, and plans could change from what was sent out or what was communicated by Rex Tillerson. But what I think is key here is that Rex Tillerson is saying we want to put together a coalition to go in and first stop ISIS, first defeat ISIS, then try to get the country stabilized, and then remove Assad from power. Again, how they're going to do that remains to be seen. I think it's a very smart thing to, one, go in and get ISIS out of the way, two, go in and stabilize the country before you do much of anything else. If the United States goes in, removes Assad, it leaves a vacuum if you don't stabilize the country first or immediately. And you still have ISIS fighters and rebel fighters, and some of the rebel fighters are ISIS fighters. So you have all of this happening. We don't know exactly who the good guys are and who the bad guys are yet in Syria. And if you just remove Assad, and this has been one of the big worries, is that if you remove Assad, then you leave a vacuum, just like we had for a little bit in Iraq, just like you had in Libya, just like you've had in other parts of the Middle East. You leave that vacuum, and who fills that power? It's normally the people with the guns and the money, and right now that's ISIS. So the United States has to be very careful here. NBC, they have a list of things that General Mattis apparently is expected to present to Donald Trump, a range of options to strike Syria, including grounding all Syrian aircraft, striking at air defenses for Syria, standoff strikes, and targeted strikes against those responsible for the chemical attack. The Pentagon says, according to NBC, that it worries that U.S. service members, there are roughly 500 of them, who are doing special operations, personnel offering support and training for campaigns inside Raqqa and inside Syria to defeat ISIS. So you worry about that. You also worry a little bit about Russian actors in Syria. Is Russia going to be okay with you bombing Syria? If you accidentally kill some Russians, what happens at that point? So there's a lot of questions still to go, but hey, listen, this This is a big moment for President Trump. This is something where you've seen with other presidents, they campaign on America first, or not being an interventionist, about not being the world's police, and then something happens. One or two things happen, and all of a sudden, the United States does what the United States has done for a while now, and that is get involved. Now, I'm not saying the U.S. shouldn't get involved. If you saw the pictures from the chemical attacks, the children who died, listen, I think that really had an impact on Donald Trump, and on not only him, but on the presidency. That had an effect. Remember, there were a lot of Republicans who were very upset at Barack Obama after the first chemical attack by the Assad regime, that President Obama didn't do anything, that the red line was crossed and Obama did nothing. One thing Donald Trump doesn't want to appear is to appear weak. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want that look. He doesn't want to look like anything like Obama went through. So that's why I think there's a very good chance the U.S. strikes Syria at some point. We'll watch and see what happens. Want to know, especially from those of you who supported Donald Trump in the primary because you thought he was going to be America first, non-interventionist. What do you think about this? Are you in favor of Donald Trump in the United States getting involved in Syria, even more so in Syria, and calling for regime change? That is a big, big deal. What do you have to say about that? Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show, weekday mornings 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter, Chad Hasty Radio. Have a great day. We'll talk later.